Okay, everybody, we are going to call the meeting back to order at 4:45. And I'm going to pass this over to Jessica, and she's going to tell us about a motion that we are going to put on the table.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So before we broke, I believe what I heard around the table is that the motion was okay, save for removal of the road inspector full-time position. Is that correct? Do I
That's
have
correct.
a mover and a seconder?
We have Deputy Mayor Armour to move it and Councillor Cloutier to second it.
Thank you. I'll just share it on the screen.
And Jessica, do you need me to read the amendment, or read the motion? Okay. Or no?
Sorry, you read the
I read the original motion.
So this is the amendment with the removal. So you can call the question on the amendment and
Okay.
then the main motion as amended.
Okay, so any comments on the amendment? Seeing none, I will call the question. Okay, so now we have the main motion as amended. Any further comments? I will call the question. All in favor? And that carries. I assume I'll sign that later. Okay, thank you, everybody. That was an amazing discussion on that. Very, very well done. We are going to move to the next item. And I believe I have a motion to read on this. We have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour and seconded by Councillor Renwick. It is recommended that tangible capital assets policy attached to Report Corp 2023-50 be approved, and further that the policy adopted by resolution number GC 89-21 be rescinded. And with that, I'll pass it over to Julia for comment. 8.2.4, that's what I was trying to get to.
Okay, so the policy before you to recommend changes to is the TCA policy, or the Tangible Capital Asset Policy. This policy provides guidance for accounting purposes to set the estimated useful life for the town's capital assets. So we have made quite a few changes, but a lot of them were administrative and formatting. Just some significant items to note. We did have further refinement of definitions to provide greater clarity to staff when applying the policy. We also made several changes to Schedule A, which includes reformatting the tables for better understanding, updating segment names to be more reflective of the town's infrastructure, and a thorough review of staff was done on each of the estimated useful lives. Although this doesn't impact directly our capital asset management plan, it does just help if we can keep them fairly consistent. We also removed the pooled column and updated the definition of pooled assets to be consistent.
Any questions or comments on Director McKenzie's report? It's good. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries. That's the first one we haven't touched, so there you go. Moving on to 8.2.5, and I do have a motion on that one as well. And that is as follows. I have it moved by Councillor Cloutier and seconded by Councillor Stone. It is recommended that the development charges background study and bylaw review be included in the 2024 budget at an amount of $51,000 to be funded from the development charges administration funds. I'll pass that over to Julia as well.
Thank you. So this report is to seek committee's approval to include in the 2024 budget $51,000 to be funded from the DCs. So there is no net levy impact, and this is to have our development charge background study and draft bylaw be presented as our bylaw will end at the end of 2024. We did issue a joint RFP with the town of Bracebridge for all the Muskoka lower tiers, with the exception of Lake Bays. The successful proponent was Hempson Consulting, who had also prepared our previous study. So that's who we would like to appoint as well, or that's who we are going to appoint as well. So we are seeking to add this expense at this time, as we are already getting underway with the process, and we would like to give a firm commitment to Hempson.
Thank you, Director McKenzie. Any questions? We'll go to Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. good report. I'm really glad to see where we're collaborating with other municipalities within the, and it's a good report, and I think it's something we need to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Armour. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. It just seems so easy now. All right. We're going to 8.2.6, and we're on a roll. So we are going to have Corp 2023-74, and I do have a motion on that as well. Moved by Councillor Renwick and seconded by Mayor Alcock, and it is recommended that committee approve providing a credit for works as it relates to the outdoor recreation portion of the development charge for the units covered under Phase 3 and future phases as outlined in the Rayville Woodstream Subdivision Agreement, registered as instrument MT 273264, with the maximum credit being the lower of the outdoor recreation portion of the GC payable or the cost of the work relating to the trails and parkland. Juliet?
Thank you. So this report is to extend the credit for DCs for the work related to the Rayville development at Woodstream to not only Phase 2, but the other phases in that agreement. The report that we previously presented back in 2022, committee approved the credit for the outdoor portion for Phase 2 only. We had discussed in that report giving a credit up to around 250 units, but actually the whole development will be around 200 units. So we're extending it just to clarify that it is actually for the rest of the development. It isn't to go back and retroactively give credit for Phase 1. It's only for Phase 2 and above that.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. Okay, we're looking at 8.2.7, Director Mackenzie again, Report Corp 2023-75. And I'll read the motion that is moved by Mayor Alcock and seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. It is recommended that budget and financial controls policy attached to Report Corp 2023-75 be approved, and further that the policy adopted by resolution number GC 11421 be rescinded. Director Mackenzie?
Thank you. So the budget and financial controls policy is the overarching document that we use for budget preparation and financial reporting every year. The changes recommended in the policy are as follows. We've had additional definitions and rewording for some existing definitions just to provide better clarity. We've also reformatted the sections to make it more streamlined. We have added the guidance for council, community, and user group requests for each year and providing a deadline for those requests so that we can build that into our process so that we do have a process of when we should be getting that information. As you've seen this year, we've had some requests, but it's to formalize that process. The removal of the treasurer-approved draft budget changes. There was some thresholds that were put in there, but these have not actually been used in practice because we bring forward the budget. Anyway, section 6.2.8 includes additional guidance for funding requirements when new capital is added to the town's existing capital inventory. So we've talked a lot about that today. So this would, the proposed changes include requiring to provide additional funding in the capital contribution to reflect the value of the town's assets in its annual budget. So when we are bringing forward a new one, that we are required in our policy that we do bring forward the funding for that for overtime. That needs to be put in the budget for overtime. And clarifying that new capital should not displace the funding for existing infrastructure. So we also talked about that as well. So when we have a new parks project, we're not taking it out of the parks reserve, which is already underfunded. Clarification on reporting requirements for significant changes in capital projects to further explain when changes to capital funding must be brought forward. And this includes clarification on the threshold. So it was just to provide some better clarity around that. Also requested by committee, there's additional guidance for reprioritization of roads capital projects, and this is found in section 9.4. So the recommendations allow the director to prioritize roads projects under certain conditions, and this would be primarily relating to changing condition or risk assessments of that road. It also considers district projects that have not originally been considered in the budget, so that would allow the director to have that flexibility. It does limit that the dollar amount of changes have to be within the same spend of the original budget, so that there are some limitations there. So as discussed earlier, we did talk about creating an operational line for small repairs on roads. This would impact the operations budget, so we will have to look at that when we go through our operations if we're recommending adding that. Otherwise, the projects can be moved up and down within that list that's been presented before you, and the director has that ability to make those decisions based on those factors. And then staff are also recommending the removal of Appendix A and B, which are more operational process, and just replacing that by an internal document to provide more instructions and procedures for staff for preparing operating capital budgets. And then also updating Appendix B just to reflect the changes to the capital reporting.
Any questions or comments? Mayor Alcock?
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I'm really pleased to see this, Julia. This does speak to the issue that was raised earlier by Councillor Cloutier when we'd see Brandon or Tarmo come in to do the reprioritization, get our approval, and so that removes that, and that's great. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That carries. We'll move on to 8.2.8, and that's regarding Corp 2023-76. And I'll read a motion that is moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Renwick. It is recommended that committee approve the revised procurement policy as attached to report Corp 2023-76. And further that the revised bylaw be presented to council for consideration, and further that procurement policy bylaw 2021-21 be repealed. Director McKenzie.
So I'll just highlight some of the changes that are being proposed to the existing policy. Table 1 provides a listing of items that are not subject to the policy, and this list has been updated for items that generally would not be subject to the procurement bylaw, such as staff and council training, bank and merchant fees, and special goods related to programs and artistic services. We've also updated the CAO responsibility to include an update to approve the value of an amendment to a contract by up to $100,000 for roads and $50,000 for all others. The responsibility under the council approved amount was not specifically previously specified, so it was only in the council approved but not in the CAO. So we just wanted to make sure that was in there. And this could be when the road is tendered for a certain amount and there are subsequent change orders. So this gives the CAO the ability to make those changes up to $100,000. We've also looked at updating at the same time the council responsibility for over $100,000 for roads and $50,000 for all others, just to be consistent. The VOR, so the vendor of record agreements, previously had a suggested minimum number of suppliers to be invited to the second stage of the VOR. We've taken out the word suggested and to require that staff make sure that they do get a specific number of suppliers when it does hit a certain threshold. So for example, if the bid's over 50, if you expect the project to be over $50,000, you would get quotes from 3 vendors. So we've just taken out the suggested so that it is required. Section 5.2.2.1, single sourcing was amended to include the list of acceptable reasons for single sourcing, to include changing consultants for specific projects or works to reduce duplications or inefficiencies. So we did have that in there before for IT services, but we didn't have it for other services. And we've just found over the past couple of years, it would make more sense to keep a certain contractor supplier when we've already been working with them. Although it's already been included in our procurement documents that we send out to the public, we felt it was important to include that timelines for response includes that when the bid is deemed to be closed. So in practice, if after 90 days it's closed, but we just wanted to put that in the policy so it's clear. We also are recommending that we take out the weighting factors that were previously included. So we did have the 30% that was required to be the minimum value for price to be removed. And this is to allow more flexibility when designing procurement documents. It is important to note that this would really only be used in practice for RFPs, because an RFQ or an RFT is primarily based on price. That's the nature of the document. So we may have cases where we do want to have a weighting of less than 30%. Again, the templates that we do use for procurement include various scenarios where the town does not have to accept a bid, but we further clarified in the policy that awarding the submission, that we don't have to accept bids when the only one is received. So that's consistent with what we've been putting out, but we wanted to put in the policy. We also clarified just some wording about executing the contract, and when council and clerk must sign the documents, and when it's okay for staff to sign those documents. The definitions section was also updated for any missing definitions, and Appendix F was updated to increase the values for procurement for the number of suppliers to be invited to the second stage of the VOR. And that's all for the changes.
Any comments or questions? We'll start with Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And very quickly, I like a lot of the clarifications, Julia. It's great, especially around the single, if we only get one response, and now it's really clear, we don't have to do whatever. But I do have a quick question. It's under purpose. I don't know, it's page 5 maybe. And you've deleted to obtain the highest quality goods, services, or construction at what was least possible cost, and you've replaced it with most economical. And I'm wondering, how do you define what most economical is? Is that an easy one, do you think, or?
It's on a case-by-case basis. It's probably not the easiest one to define, but if you're looking at the lowest cost, it doesn't necessarily mean the lowest economical cost over the term of the life of that asset. So we need to be looking at the total life cycle cost of that.
Okay, so that basically answers. So it's being able to look at it more holistically in that sense. Okay, thank you.
Great question on that. Any other questions on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries, and we finally get done with Julia. We get a break. Just kidding. Thank you for all your work, Director McKenzie. And we're going to bring down Marie Turner. And we're at item 8.2.9, and that is Report Corp 2023-68. And I will read the following motion that is moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Mayor Alcock, and it is recommended that application RC 15-2023 HTE receive preliminary approval in accordance with Section 6.7 of the Permanent Highway Closure Policy Development 11. And I'll pass it over to Ms. Turner.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. We received an application to purchase a shore road allowance at 239 Echo Bay Road. The applicant's land is abutting the town-owned park known as Thailand Park. In a previous application that was approved on June 28, 2023, staff were directed to seek public input for water access to Ferry Lake in the vicinity of Echo Bay Road, and it was determined that the best location for the public to access the water by means of a pedestrian path only was at the end of South Ferry Lake Road. Staff did not see any concerns with respect to this purchase. As per the permanent highway closure policy, since the subject lands abut property owned by the town of Huntsville, we are circulating the application to committee.
This one might sound familiar because the mirror image was brought to us not long ago. Any questions on this application? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. It was easy. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Turner. Okay, and I'm almost done. Okay, we are going to go to 8.2.10 with Tanya Kalea, and it is Corp 2023-77. I'll read the motion that is moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Mayor Alcock. It is recommended that staff be directed to amend provision of notice policy bylaw 2011-18 attached to Schedule A to report Corp 2023-77, and further that the draft bylaw amendment be forwarded to Council for consideration. Pass it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. I know the meeting has been long, so I'm just going to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions at all for Tanya Kalea? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And I am going to happily pass the chair to Councillor Schumacher.
Hello again. So mostly my update is just to reiterate what we talked about on Monday night and to let everybody know again that we are doing the Great Pumpkin Trail at, and I gotta call up my notes because I totally forgot it. The Great Pumpkin Trail at Heritage Place, and Mayor Alcock apparently has asked for other people to help her judge, but she will be judging the buildings there, and if you want to come out and participate in the Witches Dance, it is from 5 until 8. Thank you, Helena. And it is $10 for family and $3 for a head attached to a body. Yes. And please come out and enjoy and support. It is a great opportunity, and I think I did mention on Monday, it is the 35th annual, so we've been doing this for 35 years out there. And again, happy to hear that sometimes we're scrounging to get people to come out, because it sometimes isn't the nicest night to be out there decorating a building, but we have all of our buildings full. So you will have 11 buildings. Please dress accordingly and bring a bag for candy. And Helena would like to take over a bit too.
Thank you, Chair Schumacher. Just to add, if you haven't been down to the second floor recently, there is an incredible paddle art contest that's happening, and the paddles are hanging in the hallway in front of the sign at the Algonquin Theatre. So please go and take a look at that. The sale from these paddles support 6 different arts organizations in our community. So, and just a shout out to Dan Watson and his crew for doing the paddle. They actually walked canoes down the main street down, and I think Councillor Morrison helped with that as well. So that's all part of it. It's great. Thank you.
Now I'm passing it over to Dan. Councillor Armour is doing the part that you think I'm supposed to be doing, Councillor Stone, but I'm not. I just got to do divisional updates because I asked for it. Okay, so I am passing it over to Dan.
Director
Sorry,
Maxwell, the floor is yours.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Chair Armour. As you heard, the Medill Church is being disassembled and rebuilt, and under the Ontario Heritage Act, that qualifies as a demolition, and so council has the requirement, because the property is listed, to issue a demolition permit. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, Mayor. Go ahead. I'm a little confused there. So I do have a motion. It's moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Mayor Alcock. Whereas the Medill Church Preservation Society, MCPS, has been working since 2017 to revitalize the Medill Church property. And whereas due to the state of the church, it's not feasible to be rehabilitated, and now therefore be it recommended that committee approve the heritage permit application submitted by MCPS for demolition of the Medill Church. And I do have an amendment to that. I just need a seconder. Councillor Stone. So it's moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Stone. It's recommended that the following be added to a new paragraph, and furthermore that all building permits up to $1,500 be waived. So I'll open the floor.
Up to 2,000, right?
I do have another amendment.
Do you want me to-
I need a mover and a seconder for a new amendment. Moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. And it be it recommended that the following be added to the new paragraph, and furthermore, the building permits fees up to $2,000 be waived. Do we have any questions? Any comments? You certainly can.
Sorry, can I just defer to Clerk Kalea? Could you come to the front, please?
I love that. You're the only one who can skip this. So great. That is so great. Yes. 2,000? He said 2,000, no? You said 2,000. It's a clerical. Good. We're good?
So do we have any questions? Not hearing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And now the main motion as amended? And that carries.
That's great.
You're welcome.
That's really great.
And that's it for me, and I can turn it back to Mayor Alcock.
Is it, we deleted this one, right?
We removed that. At the beginning of the meeting, we amended the agenda to remove that item.
It's okay, Bob. So did I. I forgot. Okay, so we are now back to new business, and I think we probably can get through this fairly quickly. With respect to 9.1, the Hospice Huntsville Overview and Capital Expansion Project, they didn't have an ask, so not as far as I know, I don't think. We don't have a, wait, I'm pretty sure it was just an update, and yeah. Oh, okay, I'm looking at Jessica for 1 second.
They wanted to waive the building and planning permit fees.
Oh, okay, then they didn't mention that. So we actually do have a request from them. So the request is, I need a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor. So Schumacher and Morrison. Okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Morrison, whereas Hospice Huntsville is preparing to do an expansion for their community programming service development, and whereas committee understands the importance of hospice facilities have been to Huntsville and the surrounding area. Now, therefore, it is recommended that staff be directed to waive any building and planning permit fees in relation to the project. Questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, just like that. Just like the other one. Okay. So, next one, Huntsville Lake Bays Chamber of Commerce. Do we have a proposed motion? We do, of course we have one. So I'll read the proposed motion. I need a mover and a seconder, Stone and Schumacher. Could I have it? I only get it when Jessica gives it to me. I can't grab it. Okay, so we had, I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Schumacher, whereas the Huntsville Lake Bays Chamber of Commerce provided a presentation to committee requesting the installation of a temporary ice skating rink located in Rivermill Park for the 2023-2024 winter season. Now, therefore, it is recommended that committee direct staff to work with HLOBCC on the possibility of an ice skating rink in Rivermill Park for the 2023-2024 winter season, and further that all park fees be waived for the use of the Rivermill Park for the rental period, and further that HLOBCC will provide, maintain, clean, and remove all amenities, the ice surface and structures associated with the proposed ice surface, and further that all associated services are installed to the satisfaction of the town, including required insurance and indemnification. Are there any questions with respect to this one? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick one. Should we be having them research MAT or HMATA first to be paying before we waive fees? Because I think we ran into this last year with Dan Watson and his village, and I think we discussed that then. So, just a thought. Should we be adding that there?
Okay.
Somebody give me some clarification whether it fits or not.
Clarification as to whether or not this with Director McKenzie.
Sorry, I don't know if it whether it would just fit with the head matter, but last year we did have that issue come up, and we did come up with the new community financial request policy, and that did give some flexibility for our CAO to approve items that were kind of outside of our user fee bylaw, and this is something that really is outside of our user fee bylaw because we wouldn't rent that facility in the winter for that period of time. So we do have the ability to waive that fees,
Okay,
those fees.
all right. Are there any other questions then? I don't see any. I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Great, look at us. Look at us. That's 1, 2. All right, the third one, 9.3, there's the MCLT Florence Street Micro Community Affordable Housing Initiative, and I have a motion here that has been prepared. I need a mover and seconder, Cluche and Armour. I have a motion moved by Councillor Cluche, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour, whereas the Muskoka Community Land Trust has identified the potential for the development of lands off of the north side of Florence Street West for housing. Now therefore, it is recommended that committee direct staff to review and report back with potential development options and the process for transfer of lands for an attainable, affordable housing community land trust project to be located on lots 72 to 82 and Block D, Plan 21, and Part Lot 12, Concession 1, former Township of Chaffee, Florence Street West, and further that Resolution GC 99-22 be rescinded. Yes. Okay, are there questions with respect to this? Just very quickly, this does have the process with respect to the transfer of land. That was the wording we settled on?
Yes, and will be included in the report back.
It'll be included in the report back. I shouldn't have muttered that because it was important. I apologize for that. Councillor Cluche.
Just more of a statement. I think we should get behind this because through the conversation, it was brought up about what we went through before, and we're a little bit more protected in this one. So I don't think we have absolutely anything to lose here and 1,000% to gain.
Yep. Thank you for that. Any other, Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question. How long do you think it would take for staff to get back with a report for this?
Great question. No, that's a great question.
Yeah,
So
just-
I'm going to ask the CAO because I think there's a lot of enthusiasm around this table, and more importantly with the land trust. So it is a big ask.
Yeah, I would have to consult with my team I'd hate to say a time, but it definitely would be a high priority of ours.
It's definitely a high priority.
Yeah, so I'll definitely chat with, we'll do a thought, but we absolutely recognize the importance of this project. So
That's
we'll
great.
do it as quickly as we can.
And if Suzanne can send the legal documentation that they've been able to obtain, that will help, I would think, with a lot of,
Absolutely.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay, yes, follow up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a follow-up. And I think it's really imperative with the communication with this piece, and I think I spoke to Denise about this just briefly, that there are certain people in the community that are a little concerned about this piece of land, that it is in the neighborhood and that they love the land the way it is, too. So I just want to bring that up, that the messaging that we put out is we're investigating. Like, I'd love it to go forward, but I think we have to be sensitive to the fact that there are certain people in that neighborhood that live there that love the property the way it is.
So are you, is this, they feel that way about the new property? Because the old property, they felt that way. But-
Florence Street.
But the old property, this is a new Florence Street property. The old property was right in the center of an existing neighborhood. And so that's not what
Okay.
we're
Okay.
proposing.
All right, thank you.
And yeah, it's across the street and a much larger property and not surrounded with homes. So yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay, I hear what you're saying though. I haven't heard, and the reason why I ask, I haven't heard from anybody in the neighborhood about the new property. Maybe, all right. All right. Are there any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. All right, we have another, we don't have a motion on this, though? All right, so the next one was the request for funding from the YWCA. And we, yeah, that's, yeah, we do have a motion. That, sorry. Surprised, because Jessica usually has a motion for everything. So, oh, do you want me to read it? I need a mover and a seconder, okay? Councillor Renwick and Councillor Fitzgerald. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, whereas Community YWCA of Muskoka has provided a presentation requesting $8,000 in financial support for their 2024 programming. Now therefore, it is recommended that staff be directed to include in the draft 2024 operating budget an amount up to blank for council's consideration. Comments? Councillor Cloutier.
I'm fully behind this 100%, but since we only have $10,000 in our little kitty, we either have to expand that, because there are going to be other asks come forward for different things like this, or is there some other way that we can fund this particular ask?
Okay, CAO Corey.
Thank you, Chair Alcock. And to answer the question, so it's just a bit of history. Staff are currently in the process of reviewing this policy. So one of the things that we noticed is that there was no cap. So we have a $10,000 amount that's in the grant at the current time, but there's no capping. So realistically, an organization could come forward January 1st and ask for the whole thing, and there'd be nothing left for anybody else. So staff are in the process of bringing forward an amendment to the policy that would speak to a capping, whether that was 15% of the project or $2,000, whatever is the amount, whatever is the highest, so that we can make sure that there's enough funds to help multiple organizations. In this particular case, it is a 24 ask, so the policy will most likely have been amended by then, which would then restrict it to a certain capping. Or if council wanted to commit to this amount and put it in the draft budget for consideration, it would have to be added, I guess, to the existing funding that we currently have, under the existing program, because there's no provision.
Sorry, go ahead.
Have we spent 2023's money?
And if I may direct it to probably Julia, or who can speak to what's been funded, we just don't know the actual.
I don't know, I'm seeing Julia.
I will have to check, so I don't have that off the top of my head. I just wanted to provide a bit of clarity on the new program that we do have in place that council has approved. And it was $5,000 for direct financial contributions, $5,000 for in-kind support, so that would be like staff support. And then there was other areas where managers could provide some, I'm trying to think of the name, promotional items. And then the Director of Community Services had $5,000 for waiving of fees. So the only amount in our policy right now, or in our budget that we're bringing forward, would be the $5,000 cash. So this would exceed that regardless. The other thing to note is the limits that we've set is for the whole year for the entire community. So this would be a significant impact to that. So if the $8,000 council did want to put it in the budget, it would have to be its own line item, but I would suggest that it's the purpose that we had set up for the policy for the community financial requests was to give everybody opportunities to be able to access this money. So
But that's perfect, but do we have any left from 2023? Do we know? Sorry, but I just...
So while you're looking, would it be possible, since we're planning on revising the policy anyway, could we bring that forward while we're doing the budget deliberations so that we have more flexibility with respect to that?
So it is the economic development officer's, part of her role in the policy is to bring forward the budget for that program. So we could take that back to her that that council might want to increase that amount.
So she might want to revise the policy at the same time.
Sorry, so in the policy.
No, that's what I was asking.
Sorry, in the policy it says that that staff will make a recommendation in the budget each year of what that pot of money should be.
Right.
So it's not set in the policy, it's set in the,
I know,
Budget.
but the CAO Corey made reference to, we are in the process of updating our policy. So that's what I was thinking. And maybe I'm completely out to lunch on process, but I thought if we're currently updating our policy, then could that move forward at the same time as we're doing budget deliberations?
yeah, and,
No?
yes.
Yes? Maybe that just muddies the water, but I don't know. Seems,
I'm just
Yep.
waiting for Julie to finish.
So if committee is interested in entertaining this ask, then I would suggest, I believe it says to place it in the 24 draft budget, and that will give staff time to finalize the changes to the policy, which will speak more to capping
We
or
do it.
limitation. But if there's a desire to consider it, then we should proceed, and then we can figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, I just figured if there's money left over from 2023 that we still have, we can include it in with a future gift.
I'd have to defer to the people that know the
Julie
policy, but I
is
do think it has to occur in the budget year. I don't think so, and this is for '24, so so I'm getting lots of head shaking, so I do recall that. So a '24 spend can't be taken from the '23
23,
budget.
okay.
And sorry, I don't want to comment on what's remaining because I don't
No,
have Lauren
yeah.
here, because I can see what's been booked, but I don't know what's been committed to.
Okay.
So I don't want to give that amount.
All right, no,
without-
that's fine. Just asking.
so then bringing it back, I guess our discussion today, is there support for the request for $8,000? So, Councillor Stone.
So we've been talking a lot about some big numbers today, but I was brought up, you take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves. 8,000 is a big number for me, for this particular project, even though I know they do great work. If I had to put a number to it, I suppose I'll throw out $3,000.
Okay, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would not be comfortable with that amount, in all due respect. I think the amount of work that this organization does do, and they have done for the number of years on a shoestring budget, I would be more comfortable with $6,000.
Okay, so we've got 8, we've got 3, and we've got 6. So, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just curious, does anybody know if they don't get the funds, is the program going to run? So is this just a portion of that? Have they reached out to other local social groups and that might help to fund something like this?
I think as Hannah said earlier, it's like a puzzle. Every year they receive different funding, and including individuals who support the YW. They try and maximize whatever funding they get. And I can't remember a year that they haven't offered Girls Unplugged, but it might mean they have to decrease the number of times they deliver it. It's a fantastic program, and the benefits are really well documented. So, every year it's not the same as far as their funding. Councillor Fitzgerald?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. It says that they've applied for funds in 2 of the 3 elementary schools. So it seems like it's community specific where they've applied for and where they're going to operate. So to me, I would logically jump to the conclusion that if they don't get financing in our community, we're not getting. And I would recommend the full amount of $8,000.
Okay, that's 1, 2. Councillor Morrison?
Yeah, I'm with Councillor Fitzgerald. I'm also with Councillor Stone, because we do have to look at the pennies, and we are spending a lot of money against taxpayers' dollars. Something that stuck with me is Director Babineau says, we get gifts that keep on taking. There's some gifts people say, hey, we'll give you this, or they ask for something and we'll do it, and then the ongoing operating expenses are a lot. The gift, we're getting the gift here, and the gift is to our community's youth who are struggling mightily with their mental health. And the return on $8,000 is bigger than any building we could build right now. So I do know when I was fundraising for them a dozen years ago, the program was about to shut down. So without funding, they do shut down because they don't have unlimited resources. And they go in, they want to go to every school. They don't want to just do 1 or 2 schools. They want to go to every school and operate these programs. So the impact on our youth and our community, and then in turn, the adults that care for them, is significant enough. I'd love to find the money, but I'm willing to go with the will of council, for sure.
If I may follow up, I used to sit on the board of the Y, and so I know that they apply for every possible funding grant that's available all the time, but they really rely on whatever gifts that they can get. So I think that when Hannah's here before us, she's saying, just to your point, Councillor Morrison, this is a gift to us. The value for money around these programs, if you went out to a private agency to ask them to deliver a similar product, it would be way more money. And it's, they do it on a shoestring, and that for sure I can attest to. So I'm, so Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you. Yeah, I'm in full support of this. I sit on the board for Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I know it is. You're taking and asking from every which way, because that is the funding you depend on to make these projects work, and they do work, and they work well, and they're a benefit to the community that they're in. Yes, she mentioned Trillium Grant. You can't always guarantee that. They're going to apply for every grant that's out there. The hope is they get them, but sometimes they don't. So they're looking at other mechanisms, and they've gone to each town to ask to hopefully be able to then supply to that town the need. So I'm in favor.
Okay, so Councillor Cloutier.
Sorry to keep this going here. Did she happen to mention what Bracebridge or anybody else has given them yet?
We asked that question, and she said that they were, again, it's different pockets. I can't remember what she said she was getting from Bracebridge. Councillor Morrison, do you?
I think she said Lake of Bays put them in the process to be
Right.
considered at the draft,
Yeah.
at the draft budget.
They did.
In Bracebridge, she hadn't had an answer yet. I think that's where we were.
Bracebridge, they have the two different pots,
Right.
she
Yeah.
said.
Oh, yes,
So
okay.
the one of which
Both
I think they
significantly higher
qualify
than
is,
ours.
yes, one's like about the 10 grand and the other's another 17.
Yeah.
So they have an opportunity to go in either funding. And then Gravenhurst has the Tate Foundation, where they pool money and you go that way.
Do we have a timeline here? Did she give us a timeline for, like, I'm just wondering if
Didn't,
maybe if we just hold off on this a little bit when we squeeze through our budget, then we can squeeze some money somewhere or whatever to do this, like, rather than making a decision tonight on a dollar amount, because there's so many different dollar amounts going around the table. If we maybe put it off for a little bit, and like, she knows she'll get money, but dollar amount, we'll just have to see. I mean, the other municipalities have done that too.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I think my understanding is if Lake of Bays just hasn't, they've said that they will consider it in, maybe this is the thing, that we will move this to our next budget discussion. So we can put a placeholder in there and see how it goes. Is that basically, I think, what was the motion? I'm forgetting now. Yes,
So, well, you find the
Councillor
motion. I
Morrison.
think I'm on board with Councillor Cloutier. It gives us some time to get some stuff organized, and it is in line with what Lake of Bays is doing. So I don't think we have to answer before then if she's comfortable with Lake of Bays going through the budget process first. And we can just communicate back to her that we are very much in support of supporting her agency, and we're just going to have it in our budget process. I think that's fine. And then we can figure out the number at that point.
So it's saying staff be directed to include, we could say for further consideration in the draft 2024. So it's basically what we've got, except that we would add for consideration. Yes?
Oh.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're just considering it, so it can be
Right.
$50,000 a
Right.
year, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I would suggest we go with the ask amount, $8,000. We'll consider it. I guess the only thing that concerns me is sometimes we don't approve our budget until February, March.
I think that's okay. I think if she'll be, I would suspect she will be fine if she knows she was fine when she mentioned Lake of Bays.
Yeah.
So, but that's pretty positive to say, we're going to include it in our draft 2024 budget and have further discussion then. It was a last-minute request, so I think that's, my view, I think that's fine. Yeah. And Jessica is rewriting the motion as we speak, So it must be so. Yes. All right, we have a motion. No, don't.
Yeah, so we're going to amend the motion that we put on.
So I have a motion to amend the motion that I read. I have a motion to amend because the previous one, I think, said, it was very clear that we're doing it, whereas this, we're saying we're considering it in the, so I think I have, is that not right, Jessica?
It was just a blank. It was just a blank, so we're going to
Oh.
add into the blank.
Okay, all right. So then, all right, here's the motion. So I don't need to read the whole thing. I just say the amendment is for the inclusion of up to $8,000 for council's consideration. Okay, we have Councillor Morrison who's seconding. Any questions or comments? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. And I'd like to call the main, what?
Two-thirds vote, did everyone vote in favor?
Yes, yes. Everyone voted in favor, pretty much. At least 2/3 of them did, what I could see. All right, thank you. All right, we're good. I think we're good on that. I'd like to call the main motion as amended. Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald's voting twice. Okay, you know what? We are done with motions, but we are going to your update. Councillor Morrison, 9.5, Unity Square report. Very excited to both you and Councillor Renwick.
Yeah. So in fairness to staff and council, because we've had such a long day, Councillor Renwick have shortened our presentation to 90 minutes, which I think is just fair, you know, so I know, no, we get 90. There's new rules. I talked to Natalie. I can make the rules. So here's the deal. It sucks that this is at the end of the day, so I'm going to try to get you guys excited for a second. As you know, we made a proposal, it seems like 2 years ago, just about putting a crosswalk downtown, Councillor Renwick's amazing ambition, and we got onto that. And we then got some numbers, and of course, we got some feedback from the public. The feedback was heard loud and clear, specifically about it being taxpayers' dollars, and specifically about why just the Pride Group. So what we've come away with is the idea of a Unity Square. I need to give credit to my wife for the idea of the location, and we still may alter that, but the idea now, and we're going to bring it up if Jessica doesn't mind, is the location would be at the corner of Darragh Howell Way and the parking lot by Rivermill Park. And you'll see it right kind of where the archway, the walkway goes down. And once we get it out there, you can take a look at it. And the premises that we would have, okay, here we go. And I need to thank Clerk Kalea and Jessica for helping us with this. So you can see right where the parking lot comes out by the pergola. And if you can just put your cursor kind of up around there to show the area. So that's the area where we would be looking at putting it. And as a Unity Square, we are looking at doing 3 crosswalks. One would be the Seven Feathers Indigenous teachings, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. And the other one would be the Progress flag, which is very inclusive. It involves people of color, trans, and the Pride community. And then the third one, of course, would be the Legion. And we want to work with them, and I'll have Councillor Renwick discuss our meeting at the Legion in a second. We decided as part of our consultation that we would reach out to MailT, which is at the district table, and the IDEA Advisory Group, to see if they would support us in this endeavor. They've given a tremendous amount of support, and they're 100% on board, and they're going to help us with it.
MailT or Ideas?
Both.
Both.
Yeah,
So
both.
You've been to MailT? Did you go to the last?
No, their meeting fell on one of our council meetings.
Right.
So we gave them a presentation to bring to their meeting. They discussed it and came back with a letter of support.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted like that.
No, that's okay. Now it's 93 minutes, the presentation, so that's fine. So after the discussion, MailT and IDEA have given us a lot of good ideas, and Chair Lehman, the District of Muskoka, was involved with the crosswalk in Barrie. We also consulted with Pride, HMATA, and Elena will talk about Legion and Hope Arises. So the Pride group, just so you know, I know that they don't want to fund it as a group, but they will get involved in the funding. So they are going to technically be involved in the fundraising aspect, and I'll discuss that further. HMATA, I met with them, I brought it up last night. The reaction around the table was overwhelmingly enthusiastic. So the fundraising aspect, when I talked about the fact it was heard loud and clear about taxpayer dollars, Helena and our goal is to do this without touching the levy for a dime, like not at all. And in fact, we'd like to even build up a reserve from the process. The three pots that we think we're going to have to touch are the town's portion of the MAT tax, HMATA's portion of the MAT tax, and then local individuals and businesses that may want to contribute. And let me explain that part the most. I wanted to do, part of the motion that was given to us was to go find out fundraising options. I did a bit of a litmus test and started reaching out to people, businesses and individuals, to see if they'd be interested in funding this so it doesn't hit the levy. I got to 25, and I was 25 for 25. So I've got 25 businesses and individuals that all want to spend money on this and all want to get behind it. Now, my goal on that is not to ask for tons of money from each person. My goal from that is if someone wants to get behind this and they have $5, they can get behind this. And at the Unity Square, when it's all done, there'll be a beautiful sign describing what it represents and having a QR code or a link to a website that outlines every single person that's gotten behind this initiative to show the community that many people care about them and that many people are wanting this to happen. It also acknowledges that we have a huge movement behind it and a huge amount of support. The other funding, of course, is HMATA. They have not made a decision, but Councillor Stone and I were there last night, and I think you'd agree it was very well received. And the hotel owners and managers there just talked about how great it would be when somebody checks into their hotel and says, what can we go check out? And they said, well, check out the Unity Square. It's downtown, and this is what it represents for the town of Huntsville. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but it was really, really good. We consulted with other cities and other towns that have built these things. We had a very good phone call with the city of Barrie. They built theirs for, I think he said it was $12,000. And the neat thing with them is they did some of the work overnight, so it didn't really interrupt anything, and they're deciding to upgrade the materials. The other consultation we had is 4 separate companies have reached out to Helena and I saying they want a quote on this. They want to build it. They're excited. They want to be a part of it. The one company that has said, give me permission to share their names, it's JBL Durables, and they work all across North America, but one of the principals lives right here in Kearney, Ontario, and he wants to help our town be more inclusive. So he's very excited. His materials, the patent is his company's alone, and I won't do it justice, I won't take the 10 minutes to explain it, but essentially they need 25 mils instead of 75 mils. It's way more versatile to vandalism. It's 20 times more environmentally friendly than what we currently use for our road paintings. And it's so good that the city of North Bay has, instead of outsourcing their road paving or road paintings, has bought the equipment, trained their staff, and doing all their paintings in-house now and using their technology. So that's just one option of many. So I think when we go for tender, it'll be very well received. I'm going to ask Councillor Henrik to give me a break and Renwick to speak about our visit to the Legion and also Hope Arises.
Thank you, Scott. So Scott and I went last Monday to the Legion and spoke at their general committee meeting. And it was basically just to ask them if they would be willing or be open to being a partner in this organization, to have perhaps a section of maybe poppies or some kind of representation of the Legion and of the veterans in this Unity Square. And they were over the moon. They loved it. They loved the idea. So that was very, very well received. I also spoke to Hope Arises, and I think we have a really great connection with Joyce and with Hope Arises, and the Seven Feathers is just a natural fit for downtown as well in the Unity Square, so that's the second one. And I just wanted to echo what Councillor Morrison said, that after we proposed the original crosswalk, there was such negativity that came out, but there was this incredible swell of people that said, we want to help. And it kind of balanced out the negativity that was there, and it was really, for me and for both of us, really, it really brought us up a level, didn't it, Scott, to say that there are people out there that really care, and businesses that came forward. That was the thing that really, not surprised us, but really made us feel great that this is really going to happen. So, yeah, I'll keep it short.
And that's it. So I will follow up. We do have a motion we're going to put up in a second, and then we'll show some photos of the crosswalks that we're proposing with the help of Claire Kalea that she did that. And then I'll quickly answer the question, why these 3 groups, right? Well, these 3 groups are getting recognition for a reason. The veterans don't get enough recognition, and I think that we can all recognize that they've fought so we have the freedom to be who we are and to be who we want to be, to make ourselves feel the best we can. The 7 feathers for the Indigenous teachings, what I love is that the 7 feathers represent 7 generations past, which outlines who got us to where we are today. They represent the sacred teachings And they also represent 7 generations further past so that we decide to leave this earth better for them down the road. They also, when you look at 2S in the 2S LGBTQIA+, is two-spirited. And the indigenous cultures for hundreds of years have celebrated transgender people as being gifted from the gods with 2 genders, and they were celebrated as special, special people. So they, the tie-in from them to Pride to veterans, I think the tie-in is amazing, and we have some work to do there. So the motion we're putting forward, and we'll bring it up, and if Jessica is able to bring up what Tanya put together as well to show the pictures quickly, is that we would like to have, and once we can amend it quickly, and thankfully there's not much energy to amend, I think you'll just move on. But we want to get $5,000 from the MAT tax funds to go forward with a design, because once we have the design, we can take it to community members and get the funding started. All we're asking for now is to start that process to move forward. And we want to make it clear that we plan on doing this with little to no impact on the levy. So this is the progress flag in Guelph that you can see. This is a 7 Feathers Indigenous crosswalk, so you can see across the road there's been some wear and tear. There are materials that would make the material last much longer. And then this is, I think this is in Barrie, right? The crosswalk in Barrie. And we made it clear to the Legion that they would be designing the Legion crosswalk, and they're very excited about that. So we want it to look much, much better than that, obviously, something substantial and beautiful. So if you want to put the motion on the screen, we can chat about that. Do you want me to read it? Do you want to read it, Nancy, or?
I don't know, Jessica, am I supposed to read it? I would think I'm
I guess
supposed to
first thing
read
we
it.
would need is a 2/3 to even consider
Yeah,
it.
So do we have 2/3? No? I can read it, apparently. So I can read it without the 2/3. I can just go ahead. Okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick, whereas Resolution GC 141-23 requested Councillors Morrison and Renwick consult with various individuals and groups on a permanent recognition of inclusivity, diversity, and multiculturalism in the Rivermill Park area. And whereas Councillors Morrison and Renwick have completed their consultations on the overall concept and location and have reported on the recommendation of a Unity Square project to be located at the 4 corners of Dara Howell Way, municipal parking lot, pedestrian walkway to Main Street. And whereas the cost for the project will be proposed upon completion of the draft design, and whereas along with the potential of using the municipal accommodation tax and the Huntsville Municipal Accommodation Tax Association funding, Councillors Morrison and Renwick are aware individuals and businesses are interested in donating to the project, reducing the town's anticipated financial commitment to be minimal at best. And therefore, it is recommended that committee approves the Unity Square project concept and the location as presented, and direct staff to work with Councillors Morrison and Renwick, Muskoka Pride, Hope Arises Project Inc., and the Huntsville Royal Canadian Legion on a design concept. And further that Councillor Morrison, Councillor Renwick, and staff report back on the draft design and proposed costs. Okay, any questions? Any questions with respect to this motion? Am I allowed, since I read it, can I start? Oh, no, Councillor, okay, I didn't know you were actually there yet, so Councillor Stone. Councillor Stone, I've
been here all day.
I said yet, I meant, I didn't mean that. I didn't.
So I support this. I think it's wonderfully inclusive, and it will send a great message. I just wonder if the motion should include that funds will not be from the tax levy?
Councillor Morrison, would you like to respond?
I'm 100% comfortable with that. Our goal is to barely dip into the MAT funds as little as we can. So you have my commitment that we can change that wording. We just need a bit of money from the MAT tax now to get the design work done. But we're going to get this done without touching the levy, in my opinion.
So do you need to see the wording changed if you know that's the case? Or we can change the wording? Okay, Bob, you can change it.
If I could just make a comment, so the motion is to report back on the draft design and proposed costs. So the funding would be outlined at that point.
That's right. Thank you, Jessica. Right. But it will, and so if it comes back with the proposed cost, and the proposed cost says, and all of this will come from the levy, then you're not going to support it, right? I would think. The boss is coming up.
If I could just say one more thing, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Just, I think, given the negative response that we had originally with the first proposal, I think it might be good messaging to send, because if we're going to vote on this, I think it's a good message to send, that
It's
the
not-
taxpayers will not be paying for this.
I agree.
It will come
Yep.
from
All
other
right.
sources.
So do we have proposed, well, could Jessica start working on a little bit of proposed wording, or do you need help? You need help with that. You'll defer to Tanya, the boss. Someone said the boss is here. Okay. Our clerk has joined us.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. I just caught the last tail of Councillor Morrison's comment there. So there, you mentioned $5,000 to be used at this moment from Matt for the design. That is not reflected in the motion. I was thinking that the $5,000 was Matt after the design was done. So my apologies if I didn't understand that.
And that's true. You did actually say that you wanted $5,000 at this point.
That is correct.
Right away, and it's not in the motion.
No.
So we need to add that.
Can we do that? Yeah.
So if we could add that and also add in that,
Yeah,
that if we approve this motion to go forward, it's with the intention that no taxpayer dollars will be
Yeah.
spent.
yeah, so that's 2 changes so far. Okay. And I knew you were here all day, all day. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Just a couple of things. Should it say maximum of $5,000? I don't know if you actually got quotes yet. And the second part of my question is, these 3 organizations, what made you decide on these 3 organizations? Not that I'm disagreeing, I just want to make sure we aren't missing something else out there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've done your legwork.
That's a fair comment, and that's how we got to here, was what about other organizations? The tie-in of the 3 that I mentioned was the reason we chose these 3. But let's keep in mind, there's still another crosswalk there, and it doesn't mean we can't stack next to other, like if another really worthy, it's really an oppressed community or a community that does not get enough recognition, such as the veterans. And there is opportunity to recognize other communities. But what we found in other towns, it doesn't tend to happen. It seems to be these communities that get recognized and not a lot of other requests. But my answer to people when they ask that question, what about this? I said, well, I would absolutely speak to that community, or I would absolutely speak to that community. So, and yes, a cap of 5,000, I'm hopeful we don't spend anywhere near that, even on the design. But yeah, capping it at 5,000 is fair.
So that's a 3rd change, proposed cap at 5,000, and I think, because
Well, I think that it would be a cap anyway, right? If you're saying 5,000, it's not 5,000 or
No,
more
that's
if you need it.
Right,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
Up to, so that's good. The way Jessica has it in hand, as usual. Okay, are there any other questions? I just want to say, I think this is fantastic. I had, fortunately, a conversation with you earlier about this, Scott, and I was just beaming. And I have to say, if this passes around the table today, this will really help me. I'm speaking to Probus tomorrow, and one of their questions was, what was council's position on the crosswalk? So this is a fantastic update, and thank you for all of the work that you've done on this. So, just my 2 cents worth. Any other questions? So do we need to, what about the changes?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Stone, the change not to be included in the levy, sorry, I missed that one. Could you repeat that to me, please?
Councillor Stone.
Help with the wording, but that's the sentiment.
So where,
The intention was to put it at the end of this paragraph, I believe.
Yeah,
so that would be a good
I
spot.
could offer some input right there. After interested in donating to the project, with the understanding that there will be no impact on the tax levy.
Tax levy.
And if we come begging for money on the levy, you guys can all throw things at me and
Yeah.
say no, thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Stone, does that do it for you? That works. Okay.
And the
And so we have an additional response and a change. And further that, could we, yeah, thank you. And further that, council approves a budget of up to $5,000 to come out of the town's portion of the MAT tax to be put towards the cost of the design of Unity Square. Okay, so people have heard the proposed amendment.
We have one more change at the top. We need to delete a line, I think. Councilor Cluche noticed, where we changed the town levy part.
Okay. So, do I need to, and we have also deleted the words reducing the town's anticipated financial commitment to be minimal at best. So I think I've read all of the proposed changes.
Yes, so we need a mover and a seconder.
I need a
on
mover and a
that.
seconder for those, a point of clarification from the, we're doing it right now, so I think it's assumed it's coming out of 23, right? It's assumed if we're passing this right now, then it's coming out of 23. We're not referencing 24, right? I'm looking for, I think I'm seeing heads nod. Okay, so, and that, I don't mean to be dismissive, just. Okay, it's not ratified until the end of November? You're good with that? Okay, they're good with that. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. Good, Schumacher and Stone. All right, so I'm calling the question on the proposed amendments. Oh, Councillor Clark, did you have a question before I call?
No, I'm going to ask for a recorded vote on this, thanks.
Okay, all right, so we'll need a second on that. This is on the proposed amendments. Okay, all right. So it'll be on the main as amended as well. Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just go around the table, starting at Councillor Morrison. Yay.
Yes?
Councillor Renwick,
Yes.
Councillor Schumacher,
Yes.
Councillor Stone,
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Armour,
Yes.
Councillor Clark,
No.
Councillor Cluche,
Yes.
Councillor Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mayor Alcock.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, thank you for that. The amendment carries, and so now I will call the question on the main motion as amended. And you'll go through the game?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. No? Okay. It's a new, I love that. I love that. That's so great. That's so great. It's a new tradition.
5 for the money, Jessica.
It's so great.
Councillor Morrison,
Yes.
Councillor Renwick,
Yes.
Councillor Schumacher,
Yes.
Councillor Stone,
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Armour,
Yes.
Councillor Clark,
No.
Councillor Cluche,
Yes.
Councillor Fitzgerald,
Yes.
and Mayor Alcock.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the proposed the amendment and the motion passes. Thank you, everybody, for that. Okay, now, with that, we have one last item, and that is a verbal update from our Director Frame. That's so good, you're smiling.
I gotta smile. So I'll be super, super quick because I know it's been a really long day. Just quick timeline, we are having our second council workshop next Monday, October 30th. to go over the strategic plans. We will be going over the draft pillars, goals, and the various initiatives that staff are bringing forward that we will be able to reach those goals. We're also going to be talking about the town's mission, vision, and values at that workshop. We will be live streaming it, so if anybody is interested in watching, they are more than welcome. It is an open session meeting, so. And we will talk more about timelines at the end of that workshop as well, of when the draft will be coming forward and more public consultation to come.
Thank you for that, and that's great. I'm looking forward to the next session. That's super. Thank you, and with that then, I am moving past general information. We don't have a closed session. We don't have business arising. That means that we now, not bad. Well, okay, 6:01. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. It is recommended that we do now adjourn at 6:01 p.m. All those in favor?